Hello and welcome to my channel. I am ZodiacBandit, and today I suggest you click off if you are not caught up with Critical Role Campaign 3. So episode 34 is the last episode that came out, so if you haven't seen it yet, click off the video. Otherwise, I want to talk about Laudna and what the hell is going to happen with her. So this all spawns from what Matt said about the gentle repose that was cast on Laudna by FCG, which Matt said, you noticed that the spell cut something off at the pass, meaning it intercepted something and blocked something, and then he continued by saying, and then she rests for 10 days. So, there's a few ideas that go to mind when I think about what this is, and many other people have done the same. So, there are two to me that are the two that I think could happen. So, I just want to talk about those two. And the first one is far more boring. And that is, she just comes back to life. Because she has, she's a hollowed one, and her patron is the reason she's back, so that her patron will eventually just bring her back naturally, bam. And, all obviously to serve whatever nefarious ideas Delilah has. So she just brings her back after a certain point, because she'll gather enough strength, and bam, she's able to bring her back. That is boring, and I hope that doesn't happen. I think Laudna is the only character you could pull that sort of, ass pull out of. So I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does happen, whatever, I guess, because Laudna is my favorite, and I will be totally willing to look past it. But the other one is far more interesting, and that is that after the 10 days and the gentle repose is up, Delilah takes the body and just uses it. Now Laudna's body is Delilah, which is messed up, but I think would create an excellent villain. I do believe that this sort of goes back to, campaign 2 with Molly Mock and Lucian a little bit, so I'm hoping it's not exactly the same, but I do think it could lead to a similar vibe, but much earlier in the campaign, where they have to fight a familiar face, and once they do defeat the familiar face, they can bring Laudna back. But that's kind of iffy, because by that point, maybe they will have leveled up, and now Laudna's a bit behind, and then at that point, it might take a while for them to take care of Delilah, so then Marisha would bring in a new character anyway. But again, another thing to bring up online that a lot of people pointed out is, ages ago, Matt said, if a player character dies, he will talk to the player and see if they still want to play that character and see if they can work something out. So the likelihood right now, the plan is for the players to take Laudna to someone who can revive her. So to me, that sounds like the players have a little bit more intel on, yes, Marisha wants to keep playing the character, because, and I don't want to bring up Molly all that often, but there is something to be said about this with Molly. When Molly died, they were kind of split up, but there are certain lengths that player characters can go to bring someone back. Find someone who's strong enough to do revivals, even go to a church and pay a very powerful cleric a lot of money to bring a character back. You could do these multi-episode, maybe even a mini arc sort of thing to bring that character back. But instead, Talzin chose to play Caduceus for the rest of the campaign, which to me tells me that him and Matt had an idea, and they decided to roll with that instead of playing Molly Mock anymore. So, with the way the players are treating this, it sounds like Marisha wants Laudna back. So, the question is now, how? Where are they going? Who are they going to talk to? The two people that they seem to be leaning toward and literally going head toward one of them is Esteros. Esteros said this is rather rare. This kind of magic is rather rare, so it's kind of difficult. But the other person is Keyleth. So I'm going to talk about Esteros first. This is a guy who seems to have a handful of connections. He's well known in the city of Jushar, and he probably has hands in a lot of different pots as he's trying to make Jushar a better place. So to me, it would make sense if he has a ton of places he could go to potentially get her revived. So that's fine. And it won't feel too cheap as long as it takes like 3 or 4 episodes for it to be earned. And the players have to earn it. They can't just drop her off and then in a couple episodes she's back. They have to earn it. They have to go out and earn the money to be able to pay for the person to come in. They have to go rescue the person who will be able to revive her. They have to go do something to earn her coming back. Otherwise, there's going to be a whole camp of people who say this is bullshit and they just kind of let her come back. Which is totally fair. There needs to be consequences, and, having to do a short little story to bring this character back, which is the direction we're heading toward as of right now. So that's fine. However, they have a time limit, this 10 days thing, which is looming over everything. To me, if they don't get whatever they need to get done in that 10 days, that should be the end of the line. They should not be allowed to do anything else beyond that point, and whatever Matt said was headed off needs to be headed off. Whether that be Delilah, whether that be even Laudna just coming back, but with something different. So this is where I kind of want to propose a third way that this whole idea happens. 10 days ends, and they didn't get the person to revive them. Laudna comes back. She's not completely taken over by Delilah, but Delilah needs her to eventually come back in full. So Delilah brought her back, and because of this, she is now a little bit more in control of her. Not completely to the where Matt has 50-50 control over Laudna and Marisha sits by and watches somebody else control her from the cockpit. No, I'm more so along the lines of, in certain moments of stress, much like FCG or other characters, it is more likely that Laudna turns into Delilah for a moment. Much like with the Gnarl Rock situation from before, which was the only instance of this that we've had so far in the campaign. I think something like that would become far more frequent after this 10 days has passed. So, what's the point of this? Well, say Laudna dies again. What happens then? She gets revived again, and now Delilah's even in more control. And this continues to happen until Delilah either just straight up takes the body or has enough control to influence Laudna enough to where Marisha has to kind of take a back seat and maybe even bring in a new character, because now Laudna is no longer Laudna. She is 75% Delilah or something along those lines. There has to be a consequence to what just happened because she died. It was not necessarily bad planning, but a bad finish to a good plan. They pulled off exactly what they needed to in the Seat of Disdain. Half of them kept people's eyes up top, while the other half went down, grabbed Treshy, they met in the middle. Everything went swimmingly right up until the end. So this shouldn't be like, it's not like they made like 50,000 mistakes going into it. In fact, most of them saved a lot of their spells going up into the fight with Odahan. It's just they had rough positioning. They had, they didn't have full spell slots. Some of them did use a couple as they went into it. So they had already been hurt by a little bit of what was happening in the Seat of Disdain. They had used a handful, and I mean a handful, of spell slots. And they had just been separated by not only one half of the group going on a crawler, but then immediately Imogen separates half of the group because now there's this big storm in the middle. All the while there's a big storm going on surrounding them all together. So this shouldn't be like this, there needs to be consequences because they made a million mistakes. This is, there needs to be consequences because if death is happening, it's got to mean something. And even if this death was caused by mild mistakes in the planning or lack of execution at the end of the plan, those consequences still need to be there. So I do think, to a certain extent, this needs to mean something. And it should. So this 10-day thing is really interesting to me. I want to know what you guys all think about this 10-day gentle repose. What did FCG block? Did he block, or did they block the return of Laudna as is? Did they block the return of Delilah taking over? Or did they block some sort of mixture of the two? Or is it something else? Let me know down below. I'm very interested to see what everyone has to think about this whole situation going on with Laudna. And honestly, I really just want Laudna back. I think Laudna is 100% Marisha's best character. in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people's opinions as well. And we didn't even get to dive too deep into her whole story. Everyone else had stuff going on, but Laudna was a lot of the backbone to the group. She would always support everyone else. And I really want to get into more of her story. We do know her backstory, but I want to get more into where her story develops. So for me, I need that Laudna back. Because honestly, I like Orym, but I would have preferred Fern not pick Orym. But she was gonna pick Orym. We all know this. She was destined to pick Orym. It was gonna happen. No matter what the coin toss was. And that's why she didn't show anybody else at the coin toss. Because she wanted to see what she wanted. Like, that's part of what a coin toss is for. When you pick two things and flip a coin on it, and it lands on one, and you didn't want the one that it landed on, you pick the other one anyway. And that's what happened with Fern here. So, no, nothing against Ashley for that. I think that's brilliant. But man, I wish it was Orym. That sounds so wrong to say, but God, I loved Laudna, and I really want Laudna back. So, I don't know. Tell me what you guys think this Gentle Repose did down below. And tell me what you think they're going to do to bring Laudna back. What are they going to do to try to bring Laudna back in this 10-day period? Let's act as though this 10-day period is all they have left to bring Laudna back before that's curtains for Laudna. Let's see. And how many sessions do you think it'll be before we see Marisha back on the table? Because as of right now, I do believe she's going to stay away from it until the potential bringing back Laudna is gone. So, who knows? Anyway, that's been the video. A little ranty. Not so much ranty, but idea spewing. Flowing of ideas, if you will. So anyway, I'll see you guys Friday for the recap of episode 35 of Critical Role Campaign 3. So yeah, until then, peace.